This is the white dial Hamilton Murph in 38mm. This size has been requested heavily by the watch community, and Hamilton finally released it at the end of last year. My friends over at Martin Binder let me borrow this watch for a week, and they're authorized dealers for Hamilton, Omega, Tudor, and many other brands. So if you're interested in this watch, please reach out to Tyler. I'll leave his information in the description. And if you haven't done so already, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the specs. We have a case diameter of 38mm, a lug-to-lug of 44.7mm, a lug width of 20mm, a thickness at 11.2mm. On the strap, it weighs in at 66 grams. The crystal is sapphire, but it does not appear to have any anti-reflective coating. It has an oversized push-pull crown measuring at 6.4mm, which gives the watch 100 meters of water resistance. Powering this watch is the in-house H10 movement, which is a modified ETA 2824-2. It comes with 80 hours of power reserve, beats at 3 Hz, and is accurate to plus or minus 15 seconds per day. The 38mm Murph does have a few different options. This one is the white dial. It does come in a black dial as well, and there is also a variant with a bracelet, so it does have all the bases covered there. So like I said, this variant is the white dial version, and it does come with a sandpaper-like finish. We have Arabic numerals printed throughout, and a 60-minute track that runs along the outside. Above the hand stack, we have the traditional Hamilton. Below the hand stack, we have khaki and automatic. The hands of the Murph are in a cathedral style, which is more uncommon, and you don't really see it all that often. I think the cathedral handset became popular again with the Seiko Alpinist, and while it's a traditional handset, you don't really see it all that often in newer watches, so it is a breath of fresh air seeing it on this model. The hands and indices do have a faux patina, and while it works in the black dial variant, I don't think it necessarily works in this white dial. In my opinion, if you're going to have faux patina, you should also age that dial slightly. Maybe a touch of cream or even a champagne dial would work in this watch. With the white and the faux patina, I don't think it necessarily works. Moving over to the case, we have a fully brushed finish. So we have brushing on the side, brushing on the top, and the only part that is polished is on that bezel. At the 3 o'clock, we have that oversized crown, which is fully polished, and with it being at 6.4mm, it is easy to grip and operate. I like how this watch doesn't have any crown guards. I think it would have cluttered the design a little bit, and with it being a vintage-inspired field watch, I don't think crown guards are necessary here. Moving down to the glossy strap, it is made out of calf leather that has been embossed with an alligator pattern. We have cream stitching, and it does taper from 20mm down to 18mm at the ends. We have a stainless steel Hamilton buckle that does have a brushed and polished finish. Moving to the back of the watch, we have an exhibition window, which gives you full access to the H10 movement. Now, one point of contention with these movements, and even the Powermatic 80 movements, is that you cannot regulate these at home. These are laser regulated from the factory, so you're not going to be able to regulate these at home, which for me, it's not that big of a deal since I don't do that anyways. But if you have issues with this watch, you may have to send it back to Hamilton, and they may swap out the movement, which I understand. As a watch enthusiast, you might want to keep the same movement, keep it as original as possible. So that may be a slight negative here if you do mind that kind of thing. But personally, I don't necessarily mind it at this price point. All right, let's go ahead and get into the pros and cons of this watch. And we'll start off with the cons, with the first con being that color scheme. Like I said earlier, if you're going to have faux patina on your hands and make it look a little bit more vintage, then you have to change the color of the dial. A bright white dial with patinaed hands, to me, it clashes a little bit. You have faux patina because you want it to look a little bit vintage, but then you have a crisp white brand new dial. I would have preferred a vintage looking cream dial or maybe a champagne dial, something to make it look a little bit more cohesive. I don't necessarily have that same con with the black dial variations because, you know, it's already a black dial. But with this, with it being a crisp white against faux patina hands, I don't necessarily like that look. Another con I have is going to be that faux alligator strap. It's stiff, it's glossy, and I understand it was in the movie, but at the same time, I would have preferred a natural calf strap. I think it would have looked a lot better. I would also have liked this in a more light colored strap, possibly a tan or even a medium colored brown. But with the way it is now, I don't necessarily like it. Another con is going to be the size of this watch. And I understand that there are smaller wristed people and there is a 42mm Murph out there. But for me, 38mm is just slightly too small for my 7.5-inch wrist. And with it being a white dial, I would have assumed it was going to wear a little bit bigger. But sadly, on my wrist, I think I prefer the 42mm variant. Another con I have is that there is no AR coating under the sapphire crystal. And at this price point, at around $900, you should have a little bit of anti-reflective coating, at least underneath the crystal. I am not sure why they didn't put any AR coating on this watch, and it does reflect a little bit, especially in my studio lights. I noticed that it was just reflecting the light on that crystal a little bit too much. So that is definitely something to consider when buying this watch. And the last con I have is that they got rid of the Eureka Morse code on the seconds hand. I really don't understand why they took it off the 38mm variant. But that's enough of the cons. Let's move on over to the pros, with the first pro being the overall design. I like the design of this watch. I like the cathedral hand stack. I like the Arabic numerals. I like the minute track going around the outside. I like how the entire case is brushed to give it a field watch aesthetic, but also has a bit of polishing on the bezel and on the crown to elevate it to the next level. I like the sandpaper finish on the dial, even though it's kind of hard to see in the white dial variation. I'm not sure if the black dial variation of the 38mm has that same sandpaper finish. I know it's not on the 42mm variation, so that's the only thing I'm hesitant on. Maybe it's only on the white dial version. I like the proportions of the dial. I think the numerals are just large enough, the hands are just long enough, there is no date window interfering with the symmetry, and on top of that, there's no ghost date position, so I really do like that from Hamilton. And when you need to manipulate the hands, you do so using an oversized crown. And with it being at 6.4mm, it is easy to grip, easy to operate. It winds easily. The movement has 80 hours of power reserve. So if this is your daily driver, you can wear it Monday through Friday, set it on your nightstand, have a weekend watch, and then put it back on your wrist come Monday, and it will still be beating. My next pro is going to be the lume on this watch. The hands do hold a little bit more superluminova and are a little bit brighter, but overall, I think it's plenty for a field watch. And my last pro with the 38mm Murph is that there are a number of different options. There is a white dial, a black dial, and a bracelet option for the Murph. With the 42mm, there is no bracelet option, but with the 38mm, at least you have an option to purchase the bracelet. So there it is, the 38mm Murph. I think the biggest issue I have with this watch is the size. I think it's just slightly too small for my wrist, and a lot of you out there might think the same, but there is a need for a 38mm option because the design of this watch is great. The original Murph was well received. It's in Hollywood, it's in Interstellar, everyone knows that, but people wanted a smaller variation, and luckily Hamilton listened and made us that option. But like I said before, I like this design. It is a no-nonsense field watch. There is no date window. There's just time only. I like the way this looks. I like the contrast between the brushed case and the high polished bezel, and it makes it feel like a luxury field watch. So once again, thank you to my friends over at Martin Binder for letting me borrow this watch. I'm going to leave all their information in the description box. And if you haven't done so already, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. It really does help the channel. And if you're still here, go ahead and watch my Tudor monochrome review. That watch surprised me. I'm gonna have to make a comparison between that and the Seamaster coming up. But anyways, watch the monochrome review right here. Go ahead, click it. Right there. Go, click. Click it now. Go, now.